Hi, this is Katie Weeks, your independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And today I'm joining with the Inspiration Collaboration Design Team for another Mystery Envelope Challenge. Hello, so we are going to be using our mystery envelope from Cami this month, and it says, "It's fall, y'all. Happy October. For this month's mystery envelope challenge, I have sent papers from CTMH's Gnomes for Autumn's collection. Stampin' Up! Polka Dot Trim and an assortment of enamel dots. Create a fall or autumn inspired layout using these products along with anything from your stash. Happy crafting." So thank you, Cami, for sending these out. And when I pulled these out, I was trying to figure out what to match it up with, and I realized that it actually matches pretty nicely with the Sweet Days of Autumn. And so I've pulled in some cardstocks and some papers from the Sweet Days of Autumn, and I think I'm going to use this as my background paper. I usually don't use the base page as a printed page, but I think I'm going to do that. I like the back, but let's be honest, I don't have a shortage of paper in this craft room, so I don't even think I'm going to gut it. I don't think. And then the back here, I already have some busy ones that came from Cami, so I'm not going to use the back of this, but I am going to use this one. So let's get started. I'm going to actually use these as my base pages. I'm going to set those aside for right now anyways, and we're going to set these aside. These are really cute. They have these leaves on the back, and so I might be pulling in some of those. I'm not sure. The stripe is my favorite. So I'm thinking maybe a big tag or something with this. I'm not going to be using the gnome side. Maybe some little icons from here or a strip from this. We'll see. I think I'll go with the lighter side. I believe this was maybe shortbread or something. I think I'm going to go a 10 1/4 inch square. And we'll do 2 of those. And then the grid paper that I'm looking at, that's going to be my base page, has these nice lines on it, and I thought, you know what would be nice is if I could take this grid paper and maybe just put some score lines in it. 1, 2. I'm going to do it at 1/4. You know what? I'm trying to decide. I think I want to do it the opposite way. I'm going to turn it over so that the lines push up instead of down on that lighter side. So you need to do this from the back if you want the lines to come forward. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to do it at 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch on all 4 sides. Can you see that? Then I'm going to bring these papers in. I'm going to cut them down to 9 1/2 inch square. And I really want to cut them on the diagonal. And again, this piece of DSP is going to be cut down to a 9 1/2 inch square. And then I'm going to cut it on the diagonal. And since it is longer than the 12 inches for my cutter, I line it up with that groove where I'm going to be cutting, the track where I'm cutting it, and I cut part way and then I move it up and I cut it the rest of the way. I like to drop my blade down in the middle and not go directly into that point because I don't want to crunch up that point. So I like to drop my blade in the middle, go down and up or up and down, whatever. And there we go. We should be done with our cutting. We've got two of those, and let's start some assembly. So I just centered up the light side of that shortbread cardstock on this grid pattern paper for both sheets. Then I want the trees to be facing up. Like, that's important to me, that they're going directionally the right way. I don't know if I'm going to get the full effect of those score lines. I thought I would, but maybe not. You know what I think I want? Yeah. I want these little sprigs to go the right way. I know you probably can't see that print. I think that's what I want. I really like how the paper lines can work together. And if you really pay attention to the colors and the themes, a lot of times you can mix and match the different paper packs. And that even includes these new paper packs that we have with Stampin' Up! With some of the previous packs that we had through Close to My Heart. They go together so nicely, and you can really, they can complement each other. I am using those score lines. You can't see it, but I'm going just inside that 1/4 inch mark when I'm putting it down. So it did actually help me put this stuff down, and it adds a little bit of detail. So I'll quickly assemble this other page that goes on the other side of the layout, and you can see I still have the trees going the right directions, and the little tiny print that you cannot see on this paper at the bottom, they are also going the direction. They kind of look like maybe a stick of a tree almost, or a little sprig, and I wanted those to go in the right direction as well. Okay. So this is how my 2 pages will lay out, just for the base page of it, for the bottom layers. And I'm bringing in some pictures from a trip that we did to Oregon. And we went hiking and saw several waterfalls. And this one is actually the same falls from 2 different sides. And then these are 2 other waterfalls that we saw. So we took a trip to Oregon to see, I don't know if I like this one now. We took a trip to Oregon to see the Buckeyes play football, which the game did not turn out quite like we wanted it to. But we flew out just honestly for a weekend. We were not there long at all, and if I cut these at 4x6 and trim down my pictures a smidge, I can get all 6 of my photo mats on here. So we flew out on a Friday morning, we flew back on a Sunday morning, and we rented a car, and we got to see a whole lot of things. We went hiking at a place called, I think it was called Seven Falls. I need to look it up so I can document this correctly. And there was actually 10 waterfalls that you could take on this hike. We did not get through all 10 waterfalls, I'll tell you that. But we saw 3 of them. We hiked to 2 of them. And so, when Cami sent something saying we needed to do a fall layout, I was like, ooh, I know something, because like the changing leaves and everything that was going on while we were out there just made it so beautiful. It was just beautiful. I'm gonna trim a little bit off from each side because this was pretty centered already. So we hiked, and then we went and saw the coast the next morning, and we got to go and see the tower, I think is what it's called, on campus, which if you are a runner, you probably know who Steve Prefontaine is. And so I wanted to go and see the tower and the famous runners there's multiple of them, on the tower. And we just had a great time. And everybody was so nice, even most of the fans. I mean, there were a few students who by the end of the game were a little inebriated. But for the most part, the fans were all super nice. It was kind of funny because the people in Oregon thought that the way you greet us, like we had Oregon State fans that we would see when we were out hiking and things like that, they would greet us by saying OH, and we'd answer back IO, of course, but they thought that's how you greet a Buckeye fan, and really that's something that Buckeye fans say to each other. It's not how another team generally greets us. So it was kind of funny, but everybody was super nice. I mean, even the students on campus would answer questions and give us directions or help us with our parking things or whatever. Like, everybody was super nice. We had a great time. We don't always get that even at some of our closest rivals of the Big Ten right here at home. So it was a great time, and we really enjoyed our trip. And we, of course, had lots of good eats. Went to some great seafood places. So here's what I've got. So I had a piece of cardstock, and this was a close to my heart color. I'm not even sure which one it was, but I had a scrap piece, so I cut it down, and I was able to get 3 of these for mats that would fit right inside my 4x6. So it was like 3 7/8 by 5 7/8. So I'm going to be using those on 3 photos. And then I still had another strip. And so I'm going to I cut some of those down to 5 7/8 by different widths. And so I'm going to be putting those on the backs of some photos. I'm also going to go around and ink the edges after I've matted those all up. Now, the 2 pieces that had the plaid and the leaves on the back, I have used up quite a bit. So I cut some corners off in case I want to use some corners. I'm not sure that I'm going to use those. And I came in with a punch. I don't always buy a lot of punches, but this punch right here I thought was perfect because I could always punch up a lot of scraps. And look at how many of these I got out of here. I just have a whole pile of leaves and little fronds and things. So I cut those out of that little piece, and I think those will work nice to tuck some things in. Okay, so the next part, I'm not quite sure how it's going to go, but I'm going to do a little bit of experimenting. I'm going to be tearing some vellum, and this vellum is probably close to my heart. It's just kind of like a medium weight vellum. It's not the heaviest I've ever worked with. And I have some dies. I think I'm going to use these, the Alphabet a la Mode dies from Stampin' Up. And I'm going to have my title. It's Silver Falls. And I'm going to tear some vellum because I want it to look like a waterfall coming down on my page. So I'm going to do a little bit of tearing and experimenting. If it turns out great, if it doesn't, oh well, at least I had fun tearing paper and vellum actually. So I'm going to layer it, I do believe. See where that lands. That's a pretty good main waterfall, and then I'm going to add some more layers to that. So my upline, Kelly Baxter Fitzgerald, recently did a video with a bunch of otters that were swimming in the water, and she used some layers of vellum, which is what gave me this idea that maybe I could use some vellum on my waterfall. And it was just like the perfect extra layer to use with water. And so I thought, I think I'm going to try to mimic what she did in a sort of different way. Hers was a river scene, and I thought I can give that kind of effect for a waterfall. So I kind of like it. Okay, I've got that glued down and it's layered. I don't know if you can see. There's several different layers in there, and I kind of like that look. You can see the glue some, but I mean, when there's water, you see the lines of the waters coming down. So I think it works okay in this instance, and we still have more things to put on here that'll kind of disguise some things. I do have some liquid glass from Close to My Heart. So I think when I finish the whole layout, I might add some liquid glass to give some dimension to the waterfalls, as if it's water that's dimensional coming down, because I think that'll add a nice glassy effect and some 3D effect to the water splashes. I've popped up the other pictures with some thin 3D foam tape, so I'm probably going to put these down too. I do kind of like that. The water's running down like, this is the same side of that falls. This is the other side. You could actually walk behind that falls, which is really cool. So I'm going to put these down with the 3D foam tape. I do like that I added the ink. I think that made a huge difference because it was blending in a little bit too much. And by popping it up just a little bit with some thin 3D foam tape, I will have enough room to tuck in some of the twigs and branches and leaves. Okay, so I've cut out all these letters, and I've cut out two of, I don't know, I'd call it charcoal if it was close to my heart. I don't know if it's close to my heart or if it's Stampin' Up. It was from my scrap pile, and I cut two of every letter to say Silver Falls, and then I cut one silver, like a metallic sheet. And so I'm going to glue these together. I want it to be a little bit dimensional, like a little bit thicker is why I cut so many. Plus, I think I want to just slightly offset the silver. So I was not going to do anything gray or silver because I thought it doesn't go with the colors of what I was scrapbooking about. But then I realized all the rock in the waterfalls looks this color. So it does go with my pictures, even though it wasn't the color of all the other things. So that's how I'm going to do each letter. Can you see how it's slightly offset? You can see even better from the back. So that's what I'm going to do to all the letters. I'm going to spell across silver, and then falls is going to fall down here. So when I put these letters on, I put them right up against the very bottom mat of that top picture, and it gave me something to align all of the letters up against. And then I used that fine tip glue and stuck in some of these little leaves around the pictures so that I had a little cluster starting over there. I'll add more to that later on, but it was the start of some of my clustering. And then I took my liquid glass from close to my heart and started going down my waterfalls. And I added a whole bunch of water and some splashes here and there. And then can you see the great effect that it gave? It just made it so glistening and pretty. And then this page, I'm going to set this aside. This one will have my hidden journaling. So I think I need to stick this picture down. I was deciding on placement. So I built up a little thing so that my tag can slide right in down there. It was the perfect fit. It was a die cut. The die was from Greetings of the Season. I cannot tell you how much I have used those dies. I've used it over and over. Definitely got my money's worth out of that set already. And I made it so it's just going to stick out a tiny bit. So let's glue this guy together. So I will come back and write on the back of this tag about where we were hiking, and that will fit in that little pocket behind the picture. And then I had one more tag that I cut from that striped paper, and I actually cut that tag in half, like at a diagonal, and I can use it on these two different pictures as the base of where I can cluster. And I still had a little bit of residual ink left, so I'm just gluing those down, and I edged off the edges of both of those halves of the tag, and it just helps it stand out a little bit. Since I glued this one down, I realized later that I couldn't feed my ribbon through, so I ended up actually going back and stapling on the ribbon that I wanted to put on that tag. So I'm just going to take some of these leaves and tuck them in, and I tried to intertwine the leaves a little bit, and as I was building my clusters, and as I was going, then eventually I realized that I pretty much used up all of my big branches and leaves on that top cluster, and I was mostly just left with small ones for the bottom cluster. So what I ended up doing was just making a little vine going down the side. And then I realized I still needed a little bit more to go with these clusters and with this little vine. And so I went through my stash and was looking for some extra embellishment. And I'm just going to bring in what I have left of a few die cuts. These were from an old pumpkin spice kit. And there's some leaves, and they have adhesive on the back. They're like wood stickers is what it says. So I added some of those little enamel dots that she gave us, and I hope you can check out all of the other inspiration collaboration design teams. Like, comment, share, and subscribe for more crafty inspiration.